Hey, sports fans, it's Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. It's our program, Socialing the Distance, and this week we're featuring Emily Oren, a 9-time NCAA Division II champion who has joined the On Athletic Club. Emily, nice to see you. Good morning.
Thank you. Hello. Good morning.
So you just
morning. Thanks for having me.
No problem. You just got back from your morning run?
Yes, I did. Just an easy 5.
Oh, there you go. Now, are you guys kind of for a little bit? How does that work for you?
Yeah. So we raced out in LA on August 22nd, I think it was.
Okay.
And then took about 4 days completely off, and now we're kind of running every other day, getting back into it. So I have some easy runs for a week or so, and then we'll start building my mileage back up. So it's been a lot of 5-mile runs in the last week, which I'm not complaining about.
You get a good break. And so you're getting married in the fall?
I am, yes. October 24th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what is more stressful, moving to Boulder or trying to plan a wedding?
Oh, man. Honestly, I'm not sure, because doing them at the same time has been just really hard.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about how emotional stress can really affect your running this summer.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's been, I think planning a wedding with a pandemic is probably the most stressful thing.
Yeah, it's just, how has your running been affected by the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm weird, because when it first hit, I was like, okay, this is fine, like just more time to train, and I love the process of it.
Sure.
So I was kind of okay with it. Bummed that I wouldn't get to race, but I was like, okay, it'll be fine. I'll get really strong. But as it kind of dragged on, it took a mental toll to not be able to get out and race when I thought I was going to be able to, and then to just have trained for so long with about a lot of unknowns was really draining.
Sure.
So by the end of my very short season, which was 2 races, I was kind of ready to just be able to reset and start looking towards something else, which for me was my wedding, but also just the start of a new season and getting to build up again, because I felt like I had been pushing for so long to get ready for these races that never happened.
Sure.
So for me personally, it was a little draining. By the end of it, at the start, I was like, oh, this is fine. We'll be fine. And it just kind of got long. But
Yeah. No, I was in Dubai in January and then flew back to Boston for the New Balance Indoor. And literally it was within 6 hours of leaving for the European circuit. And I got a call from a buddy at CDC, and he said, yeah, you don't want to go. And I said, what's going on? He goes, this is not going to be good. So we stayed domestic, and then stuck in Wisconsin for a while, and then out here. But how is your husband to be a runner?
He was. We met at Hillsdale College. He was on the cross country and track team with me. Yeah. He is currently in chiropractic school, so he hasn't had as much time to run. But he'll run with me when I ask him to.
Cool. Tell me about your experience at Hillsdale. Is it Hillsdale or Hilldale?
Hillsdale.
Hillsdale? And where is it located?
It's South Central Michigan, so it is in the town of Hillsdale.
All right. Yeah, so it's Div 2, right?
Yes, D2, very small, 1,400 students. So.
What was your coach's name?
So the head coach of the program is Coach Andrew Town. While I was at Hillsdale, I had 3 different direct coaches, so like the distance coaches. When I started there, it was Amanda Barakna. She recruited me. And then Samantha Carney, she was my coach my sophomore year. And then Joe Lynn was my coach my junior and senior year.
Cool.
And a couple years post-collegiately as well.
What did you like about being in a Div 2 school?
I really liked, so some background on me, I didn't want to run in college at all. I didn't like running that much when I first started it. And so the idea of going to a big D1 program, which I had looked at, like Michigan State or things like that, was kind of intimidating, because I wasn't sure I even wanted to be doing it in the first place. And so those are kind of intense programs. for somebody who is like, I don't know if I even want to run.
Yeah.
I was not interested in having it kind of like shoved down my throat that way. I had to learn to love the sport. And so I think going D2 and especially Hillsdale, which was a small school, and the school cares about students as a whole. That's like they're a liberal arts college, and so they want to watch you grow in every facet of your life.
Sure.
And the coaches really took that to heart too. And so not only did they help me love the sport, they helped me grow as a person, but I think I needed that sort of development in order to be like, okay, yeah, I like to run. So I got that my first year. I started to like to run. And so I really liked that it was a small program where the coaches could give me some attention, but also they were really committed to helping me in my career. And so once I started running a lot faster and they realized, oh, she needs more competition to go race, like they have no problem flying me to California and racing with some of my teammates and stuff. So
cool.
They made it a priority to help make sure that I could reach the top level, even coming from a D2 program, which I really loved.
So you won 9 NCAA D2 titles. What's your favorite title that you won?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, my first individual one was the indoor 3,000 meters my junior year.
Okay.
That one might be my favorite because it was my first and it was something I wasn't really expected to do. I thought I could, but I wasn't ranked first, and my teammate got second. And we had both talked about it for months leading up to the race. It wasn't something that anybody was like, oh yeah, Hillsdale could go 1-2. Nobody thought about it except for the two of us. And we had chatted about it for months, like, oh, how cool would it be if we did this? And I don't think even our coach thought we could, but we even talked about it before we got on the track, like, hey, let's go and do this. And so to actually execute it was so amazing. And then we, as a team, ended up getting runner-up for the first time in indoor and on the track, national runner-up. And so the 1-2 punch really helped seal the deal. And so I think that one's one of my favorites because it was kind of unexpected and just like really special all around.
And then you won the Honda Sports Athlete Award. Was that your senior year?
Yeah.
Or what year was okay?
Yeah, well, so the way that award works is that they take an athlete from every sport. So my junior year, I won it just for, I think it was just for track. So I was like a track nominee. So they nominate one person from every sport, and then they pick one person out of that pool to win the overall award. So I was like a nominee / sort of winner my junior year, and then I won the whole thing my senior year, which was really cool.
Now, what was that like?
It was actually really surreal because my junior year when I didn't win it, I was kind of bummed because I actually didn't know it was an award until they said, oh, you have a chance to win this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So my senior year, I was actually told I won it at a staff picnic because I was working for Hillsdale at the time. Somebody came over and was like, hey, you just won this award. And one of my former coaches was next to me and she's like, what? And we both kind of had a little excited moment and celebrated together. But it was really surreal because the best athletes in the NCAA were there getting this award. And I got to be represented among some of the best women in sports and be with them because it was the 40th anniversary. So they brought back people who had won it previously. So I just got to meet a lot of really cool women, and it was an honor to be considered among them. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite press releases of the year. They do a really nice job with it. And they make sure that they get it out. They get pictures out. I mean, they really do a nice job.
Yeah,
I mean,
they do.
The two awards that do it well, I think Honda does it really well, and then Gatorade does it really well too. So it's kind of. Did you talk to us about your experience in 2016? Is that when you kind of decided that, hey, maybe I can try for this whole Olympic thing, or how did it come about?
Yeah.
For you? Was it an organic thing?
I think it kind of started, after my freshman year of college and going into my sophomore year, my coach, Andrew Town, the head coach, kind of was saying like, hey, I think there's potential here. There's something big. And then Sam, who was my coach my sophomore year, I'm so good friends with her. She was the one that kind of put the bug in my ear. Like, hey, I think you really could do this after college. And this is before I even won any national titles. And so then my junior year, Joe Lynn, who coached me for 4 years, he got me to winning the titles. And he was the one that was like, hey, there really is a future here for you. I think you can make a U.S. championship. And so I made my first U.S. championship in 2015. And so that's when it kind of it kind of became real, like, oh, maybe there is a future here for me. And so I would say it kind of started in 2015 when I made my first U.S. championship, because then I got to experience that and see what it was like. And it made me think, oh my gosh, I really want more. And then making the Olympic trials really sealed the deal for me that it was something I wanted to keep doing and try and make an Olympic team.
Tell us about the experience with the Olympic trials.
Yeah, it was, well, first of all, I ran horribly, but I was young and I had never raced anything like that before, because, D2 nationals it's a big deal, but the amount of spectators at the Olympic trials versus at D2 nationals it's a different atmosphere, entirely different. I just remember walking out onto the track and it being so loud, like deafening loud, and people were hitting the side of the stands and cheering, and it was surreal. But it also really got my nerves going, and I had never been in an atmosphere like that. So to go out there and just be there and experience all of it, it made me hungry for more and wanting that again, even though I ran pretty poorly. I don't even know what place I got, but it kind of had to put a little chip on my shoulder. Like, I know I'm better than that. And I want to show up at the stage and show that I am better than that. So it was honestly the best experience of my life, though.
So you've run 940.65 in the steeple. Mm-hmm. Is that going to continue to be your primary event?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. And this season you didn't run a steeple this season, did you?
No.
And what did you do? You did a 5,000, a 15, or two 1500s?
I ran a 1500 a couple times. I ran a PR this year, 414.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Talk to me about the steeple. The steeple is the most really technical event for distance runners. And I coached the steeple. And I remember the kids coming up to me and saying, hey, coach, the barriers seem to be getting higher as we get later in the race. Why don't you explain to people, give us your view of the steeplechase. Tell us why you like it.
Yeah, it is very hard, but I think that's one of the reasons I like it, is that it is a challenge. It's nice. It's nice to break up, not that just running on the track gets monotonous, but it breaks it up a bit. You have a way to break down the race in your mind, at least in my mind. I can break it down a much easier, like barrier by barrier if I have to. I typically do it water pit by water pit. That's like my marker, but I think I like it because it is such a challenge, and it is deceivingly hard. I think a lot of people think, oh, you just have to kind of run your 10K pace for 3K. Like, that's not so bad, but it's just a different kind of pain when you start going over barriers for that long. Yeah. And I think that's, not that I'm sadistic or anything, but I think that's why I like it. It's just different.
It's honest.
And,
Sure.
And
what's the are you good going over barriers?
I'm decent. Yeah, I'm not super good at the water pit. That's something that I need to get better at. But I think I'm just a really strong runner in general, and so that's why the steeplechase fits me. Is I'm able to get over the barriers, but also be fast in between them. So that's my opinion. You could ask Dathan.
Okay. There's a story about the 1968 Olympic winner. It was a Kenyan named Amos Biwott, and he leaped off the water barrier. He never got his feet wet. And when he was asked afterwards, he said that he had been told that there was alligators and crocodiles in there, and he was terrified about being bitten. And so you should Google him. The video is fascinating because he literally is leaping over each one. I'd never seen anything like it before.
Wow.
And some of the, I watched a lot of the Europeans. They were very, very technical.
Yeah.
What did you like about running the 1500 this year?
I liked it because it is a bit of a change. I've really struggled with the 1500 in the past,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like ever since I started college. I don't know
Sure.
why I'm not good at the 1500, but I knew I was ready to run a PR. And so I was just excited to go out there and run an event that I don't usually get to do and see what happens. And I was in a heat where I was able to kind of lead and push the pace myself, which is good. It's something that I like to do instead of sometimes just getting sucked along. I like to be up front and trying to win a heat. So yeah, it was just fun to do something I don't normally get to do, and at a point where I knew my fitness was really good.
Was that at Music City?
Yeah, I was at Music City.
Okay. And then you did your last race of the year was the Sunset Tour?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So how long have you been working with Dathan?
About 2 years.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. So did he coach you after you left college?
No. So I was coached by Joe Lynn, who was my coach in college for a couple years. So Joe coached me for about 2 years post-collegiately. And then in the fall of 2018, I approached Dathan because I'm actually from Holland, Michigan. So I grew up in West Michigan, which is where Dathan's from.
Yep.
And so I knew him a bit because I ran against Grand Valley all the time, which he was a volunteer assistant there. So I had talked with him before at different events, and I was just kind of looking for a change. I had a sponsorship with Wazelle, but that had ended. And so I was looking for support in other ways and just kind of wanted a change because I was not happy anymore. So I just reached out to Dathan, and he's so great. He was so excited about it, and made my decision really easy to go with him.
What do you like about his style of coaching?
I like that he obviously has the toolbox to take you to the next level. Like he was coached by some of the best people. He's run at the best races. He knows a lot. And so it's really comforting to know that. But beyond that, he really cares about me as a person and cares about me being happy outside of running. Yeah. And he just gets that there's more to life than just running sometimes. And I really appreciate that about him, that when I am like this summer when I was out in Boulder for a month training, but I was like pretty anxious and stressed out about my wedding and the pandemic and a move. And he really understood and like understands that can affect my running and tries to walk me through all of it, which is, I think, not something that every coach will acknowledge, but he does a really good job with that.
Yeah, I think coaching is both an art and a science. And I tease that coaches are cheerleaders, confessors, salespeople, and coaches. And sometimes all those different things play in at one time. And the enthusiasm is there. Dathan definitely has the enthusiasm. And he's been coached by some of the finest coaches in the world. So he knows that too. What's it like training with a small training group now? Are you enjoying that?
Yeah, I am. I had like a small training group here in Grand Rapids before I joined the OAC, but the OAC is like a whole nother level up. It's what I've always wanted for myself post-collegiately. I just wasn't sure I'd ever have the opportunity. It's kind of hard sometimes coming from D2. Especially I'm 26, almost 27, so I'm a little bit older in the sport.
Oh my gosh, you're terribly old. Yes.
I know. But I mean, I'm surrounded in the OAC with like all of these people who just graduated college. So I'm like, oh man. But it's awesome. I mean, everyone on the team is super cool, but they're also fantastic athletes. And I have really enjoyed getting to be around them and just watching them attack workouts and the day-to-day and being excited about everything. But honestly, watching them all race has been really cool because they're so talented and they are so driven. And it's nice being around that and having that like kind of rub off on me and making me really excited for the opportunities to come, not only for them, but also for myself. So I've really enjoyed it because I like that I can get to know them a bit more because it is a smaller group. So we can kind of be more friendly and have each other's backs, but also, just having those relationships has been cool and getting to see them crush it.
Cool. The steeple is not only one of the most technical events, I believe it's one of the toughest. And some of the athletes that I admired who were great steeplers were also fine at the 5,000 and the 10,000. In fact, a couple of them would tell me, I had a buddy who would do the 10,000 for a conference and points, and then, and then do steeple the next day. And he said he slept through the 10, and the steeple is what he focused on. Do you have any interest in the 5 or the 10 at this time? Are those things that you...
Yeah, the 10 is a little long, but I do like the 5K. I had a really good 5K, not this May because there was no races, but before that at Payton, Jordan, I ran a PR of like 34 seconds.
Nice.
And so that one was like, and I got hurt last summer. So that was like, I ran that and was like ready to ride this wave. And but then I tore my plantar. But after that race, it made me really a lot more interested in the 5K. Because I felt amazing doing it and felt like I had a lot more left in the tank. So I have a pretty strong interest in the 5K for sure.
Tell us about the Payton Jordan. I didn't miss a year for, my gosh, almost 20 years,
Wow.
And I had lived out there for a while and coached at a community college nearby. And then when I moved to Wisconsin, I just fly out each year. It's where you see everybody, I'd see Jerry Schumacher bringing his group in, Ronnie Warhurst and that crew, Joe Piani and stuff. And so it was a nice place to catch up. What's the magic of that meet? Why do you think so many people go there and just, as you said, crush it?
Yeah. Well, the weather is amazing when you're out there at that time of year. So that really helps. But I think it's just like the atmosphere of all the athletes, like everybody there is there to run fast. And so you get out on the track and you're all out there for the same purpose. You're not just here to try and win a heat or win a race, which if you do, that's awesome. And like, that obviously is everybody's goal, but everybody also is there to try and run fast. And so I think when you have just heaps of people doing that, it creates a really cool energy. And so you can watch the race before you and watch these people crush it. And then it makes you excited. So I think it's honestly just the energy that everyone brings is what makes it so special, but it's also like amazing weather whenever you get out there. But I remember actually that was my first time racing at Payton Jordan when I ran super well. And I remember just being really excited watching the races before me because people are running PRs left and right. And so that kind of makes you ready to go out on the track and follow it up with the same thing.
Okay, I'm going to give you the names of 5 athletes. You're allowed 3 words to describe them.
Okay.
3 words. Okay. All right. Courtney Frerick.
I don't know her that well. So she seems very, very nice, very tough, and driven.
Okay. Emma Coburn.
Oh, super tough. What else? I don't know all these athletes that well.
Okay.
This is me just like from the talk little I've talked to them. But she seems also pretty nice, but intense, I would say.
Shelby Houlihan.
Crazy. She's so good. Yeah, I would probably say intense for her too, and tough because you got to be able to do what she's done.
Did you compete against Mel Lawrence?
I've raced her like a couple of times. I know her, because it was Elle.
How would you describe her?
Oh, so sweet. She's so sweet. And really driven, but also super smart.
If there was is there an athlete that is competing now that you admire?
I honestly, there's a lot of athletes that are competing now that I admire. I really admire Sarah Hall.
Cool.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah. Why do you like that? Because of her depth, her variety of events?
Yeah. She's really tough. Can do pretty much anything. Yeah. And it's just, I've never met her, but just the way that she presents herself, she's very kind, really strong in her faith, and not afraid to say what she thinks. And I really admire those things about her.
Yeah, I used to have a magazine, Cal Track and Running News. She was on more covers of that than Allison Felix. And
Oh,
because
really?
she was good in high school, very good in college, and I
Still
think
so good.
yeah, but I think she's finally found her place, and
Yeah.
I think that's probably the challenge for all athletes. Um, One of the themes in running, in American distance running over the last 8 or 10 years, has been the success of some of these shoe-sponsored running groups. And On Running, it's the company you run for, they've been around for a while. We've reviewed their shoes for years, and they have a very long-term approach to things. And it's not a mistake or happenstance that they brought in Dathan. This is obviously a long-term approach. You had said that you'd worked with other sponsors before, but you were looking for something a little different, something to inspire you. How does the OAC inspire you?
Yeah, good question. I think, like I said before, with the athletes that they've signed, they're all young, right out of college, and they've all had amazing careers already. And so being around them is really inspiring, and knowing that everybody around me is competing to try and get on an Olympic team or a national team. It just kind of brings a new level to the sport for me that I haven't necessarily felt before, but also is what I was looking for. And so that is really cool to me. And having a brand that is so invested in making your dreams become a reality, they ask for our feedback all the time on shoes and gear, and they're really trying to give us the best chance possible to run as fast as we can and to make an Olympic team. And so having a brand that is supporting me in that way too is really cool. And that they don't want to just give me money and then say good luck, but they're setting me up. They're giving me a group. They're giving me a coach and teammates and gear, and like really trying to nurture me, maybe is the wrong word, but partner with me is probably better. And try and make that happen, and not just like, oh, here, just wear our stuff and we hope you do well, but they're really invested in trying to help us do well.
How competitive are you?
I'm very competitive, but I wouldn't say I'm like competitive in everything about life.
Sure.
When I play like a board game or something, it is what it is. But when it comes to running, I'm very competitive.
Okay. Do you feel that you have to apologize for being competitive? Like, sometimes it seems like I coached women my last 6 years, and I loved it because they actually listened as a group, which is opposed to after 20 years of coaching men. What was interesting, though, is there were times when I had to tell young women that it's okay to be competitive, to not apologize for it, that it's not a male-based characteristic. You're in a sport where women's track and field is, quite frankly, when I go to these major meets, some of my favorite events are women's events because they just compete. It's wonderful, and sometimes the histrionics of the men's stuff drives me crazy. Do you feel, as a 26-year-old American woman competing and being in this world, that it's okay for a woman to be competitive?
That's an interesting question. I actually hadn't thought about it before, but I think that as I've gotten older, I've felt like I've felt less bad about it. Sure. But I think if you had asked me when I was younger, probably in college even still, where that question, I might have said yes. Okay. Because I think I did sometimes feel bad about my desire to win as many national titles as I could. Like, sure, I felt a little bad about trying to win all of the awards. Like, why do I have to take them all? But then as I've gotten older, it's like, well, why not me? Like, why can't I try that too? Sure. And so I think that there was a shift in my mindset in college where I was like, at some point I was like, well, why can't it be me?
Yeah.
And so I haven't felt that way as much, but when I was younger, definitely, especially in high school, oh my gosh, I totally felt that way in high school. But I think it's just, I've grown a little bit more and realized, like what you've said, it's okay. It's okay to be driven and to want to do those things. So yeah, I like that though. That is an interesting question. And I like that you've also taught women that it's okay.
No, yeah, I think it's important. One of the athletes I really enjoy, and I've interviewed her a dozen times, Jenny Simpson, and I've watched her since she was in college, and now she's in her mid-30s, and I think she's getting better. I think her race experience is what gives her the medals. Will we see you competing in 2028? Do you want to be competing that long? Where do you see your? I mean, have you even thought of those things? And that's part of the thing with the 40-minute interview. You're down to the last 5 with me, so you've survived 35 minutes. So congratulations. But Emily, do you take do you think about? And I'm very curious about this. Do you think about, hey, I know I can probably do it till 2022. Maybe I want to do 2024. Hey, or wow, the Olympics could be in the U.S. in 2028. I want to see if I can hang around. Do you think of those things, or is that a little too far out?
So I hadn't thought about them before, but I had one like super solid. It was like a long run fartlek type thing, and I remember Dathan texting me afterwards saying, wow, getting ready for the Olympic marathon trials in 2028. And I was like, 2028?
Wow, yeah.
That's so long. Yeah. And then that was when I was like, could I actually go through 2028? But to like be perfectly honest, I haven't thought that far out.
Sure.
I've kind of thought through, 2024 hopefully is like the goal, and then kind of reevaluate. Because I know that a lot of women have had kids and come back better than ever. So, but I do want to have kids someday. So I just don't know if it looks like me having kids and coming back, or if it's like me having kids and just moving on with the next phase of my life. I haven't thought that far out yet.
Yeah, but you should have the freedom to do what I think you want. That's the cool thing. Just give you a little history. So in the 1984 Olympic marathon, there were 2 women in the top 10 over 40. Okay.
Oh wow.
And the oldest guy to win an Olympic marathon was Carlos Lopes. He was 37. I always liked him. What I really admired was the night before he had a big bottle of Portuguese red wine and a huge steak, because he didn't understand. He didn't believe in carbo loading. He didn't understand it at all. He said he wanted a steak. He wanted his wine. That's what he had. And he went and won the marathon. So, it's kind of how you put stuff together. But will you do indoor season, you think, for this next year?
If there is an indoor season,
okay.
I bet I could imagine that we'll run a couple of races if they happen. Yeah. But right now it's kind of unclear of what's going to happen. I think it sounds like there probably will be pop-up meets like out in California and stuff again, outdoors even. So if that is the case, we'll probably hit those. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like whatever is going to happen.
Did you like the Sunset Tour meet? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, well, I ran really poorly there. I think I was kind of at the end of my rope with the whole training and planning a wedding thing. Yeah. But it was cool that they were able to put it on. And I think had I been in a better headspace, I would have enjoyed it a bit more. Cool.
All right, we're down to the last minute. I wanted to thank you for your time. Yeah. We will hunt you up next spring so we can see how you're doing with married life and training and all those kind of fun things. It's really been nice getting to talk to you. And I hope to see you at some meets, and we'll come up and say hi. But do you have a favorite quote? Is there a running quote that inspires you?
I don't necessarily have a quote that inspires me, or I don't know like a direct quote. There's like some version of a quote that I tell myself from, I think it's from Born to Run. I can't remember. It's for some book where it's about the ultra marathoners. They run all, there was a woman who was an ultra marathoner, and she talked about how, the way she broke through was when she felt pain, instead of like shying away from it, she like smiled and ran into it.
Cool.
And like really embraced it. And that's kind of what I've told myself for a lot of years is, I don't know what the quote is, but it's like a version of that.
Cool. There's a book you should read sometime by John Parker called Once a Runner. Grab it.
Oh, I think that's what it's from.
Okay. Yeah. Then check it out. It's an amazing book. There were teams I knew that would usually do the rolls when they were going to track meets and just read it. But it's very cool. But Emily, thank you very much. We're going to.
Thanks for having me.
You've survived now 39 minutes. So this is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. We're doing Socialing the Distance. We featured Emily Oren. She's a member of the new On Athletic Club, which you're calling the OAC, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Emily, thank you very much. Best wishes with your upcoming wedding, and hope the training goes well. We'll see you in the spring. Well, hello, sports fans. Greetings and salutations. It's Larry Eder. RunBlogRun, our program, Socialing the Distance. And this week we featured Emily Oren. Emily is one of the new members of the new club, the OAC, the On Athletic Club. Emily went to Hillsdale College in Hillsdale, Michigan, a Division II school. She won 9 NCAA titles. Her favorite event, the Steeplechase, where she's run 940.65. She said she's okay in barriers. She's got to work on the water barrier a little bit. She has a challenging relationship with the 1500, although she ran a big PB, 414, at the Music City event. She had a pretty good experience with the 5,000, so she thinks she'll do that down the road. 10,000, she thinks it's a little long right now. We had a great conversation, kind of far-ranging. I wanted to find out about what it was like competing in college. She had 3 different coaches then. Post-collegiate, she worked with one of her collegiate coaches for a bit, and then 2 years ago, Dathan is her coach at the OAC as well. She likes his breadth of knowledge. She likes his breadth of experience, and they work well together. And I still think coach-athlete relationship is art and science. You can have the greatest coach in the world, and if the kid doesn't believe in him, the kid doesn't feel comfortable, it's not going to work. So that's part of it. On Running, which is a Swiss running shoe company that's doing quite well, in an industry that has 49 different opportunities to get different shoes. And you've got to pick one of them, or you pick many of them. On has become quite popular with women. It's fit, the colors. People don't understand why it works, but they say it does work, so that's good for them. Dathan's got a group of athletes he's built around, and Emily is the first of the women OAC athletes that we've interviewed. We've got a couple more today, but she's a lot of fun. She's back in Michigan, running 5 miles every other day, and planning her wedding, which will be in October. And that's got to be juggling and then back to training. Their training will be based in Boulder, where Dathan has moved to, and set up some places for the OAC to train. And this is also during a pandemic time, which has been a challenge as well. But in a lot of ways, it slows things down and athletes a chance to develop. And I think that's really, really key. What did I learn from talking to Emily? That 26-year-olds have a lot of enthusiasm. And I asked her if she'd be competing in 2028. She didn't rule it out. She said she never really thought about it. She did mention that she'd had a good fartlek tempo workout, and Coach Ritzenhein said, that'll get you ready for the marathon, your marathon debut in 2028, which, makes a lot of sense, because women's running has been around for a long time. The truth is, women's running, they only kept track of women's marathon times since the 1960s, when it was rumored back in 1896 that Melpomene, the young daughter of a farmer, Greek farmer, ran the entire Olympic marathon distance. And there's a Melpomene Institute, which focuses on women's sports medicine issues. But women have been involved in athletics for a long, long time. And the opportunities are finally becoming equal and giving women a chance to compete longer, compete, have kids and come back and compete, have kids coach, or compete, have kids go on with their lives. Running is just part of our life. It's not all of it, although sometimes, and I remember being there in my 20s, it was, that in school, it was my life, and I enjoyed that and the camaraderie. So it's kind of fun to see that with male and female athletes. It's fun to see an enthusiasm of starting a club, being the first. And that's one of the opportunities we're getting with the OAC is getting to see a club in its infancy. One of the big themes of running in the U.S. over the last 10 years has been the success of American running clubs, from Pete Rea with Zap Fitness to the Oregon Track Club to Brooks Hanson's, to Brooks Beast, to Adidas's groups, to all the key groups all over the country. But it's all about the chance to work with like-minded people, to get the attention from a coach, to be able to work, to be able to train, run, sleep, work out, and focus on goals for a few years. The Florida Track Club showed us how to do it back in the 1970s when Jeff Galloway, Jack Batchelor, and Frank Shorter were set up a camp a couple months ahead of the Olympic trials in Eugene, 1972, and were running 150 to 160 miles a week and coming down to low altitudes doing intervals. And they just got themselves in beastmaster shape. And that's part of the challenge, is how do you do it? Do you train with one person? Do you train by yourself? Do you train with a group? The OAC is going to train with a small group under the watchful eye of Dathan Ritzenhein and being supported by On Running. So we wish them well. Emily, Oren, thank you again. The only question I didn't get to ask you about was economics, but we'll do that another time. And thank you to Emily Oren. Thank you to Mike Deering, who manages Socialing the Distance and tries to manage me with the help of my son, which is a 24/7 operation. So long from San Jose, California. This is Larry Eder with Socialing the Distance, the Epilogue, and we featured Emily Oren today.